like weed paraphernalia in the back?
I promise I don't actually. Although it is legalized here in
I was about to say, it's totally fine.
medical
It's fine.
marijuana.
It's fine. Speaking of that, so have you ever heard of this thing called Delta 8? It's a synthetic strand. And I don't know a ton about weed, so I don't want to like really talk about this in depth because I actually don't know that much, and so I'm going to get exposed. But have you ever heard of that?
Absolutely not. What is Delta 8?
Yeah, so evidently it's again, disclaimer, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I just read the package. But it's it's a synthetic, it's basically a synthetic form of THC, I think. Again, people that know more than me can correct me, but point is, it's a lot, this particular strand was a lot stronger than like normal, just like, smoking some marijuana. And over Christmas break, there were some edibles that I found. And we took
Where
said
were you
edible.
at?
In Florida, totally legal, right? So, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Took said edible. All right.
Yeah, and oh my God, like it was the worst experience.
Why?
It was just like because it tells you only eat this much or whatever, and I mean, we ate less than that, and it was like mind blowing. Anyways, so
moral of the story: don't go for Delta 8, or everyone should experience Delta 8.
No, and maybe I'm a wimp, so maybe people that are stronger than me can
No,
do
it's
that.
definitely people around here like talk about like, I'm just gonna, post-workout recovery, I'll take an edible and chill out.
Yeah, is that like a thing? Does that really help? Because people talk about working out high, and I can't do that. I mean, I need to get so psyched up. I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, I haven't experienced it. None of anyone that I've ever been, or I mean, like, as far as recovery, like literally at the end of the night, like it's like your last spiel, and then they're like, all right, I need to recover my body. This is one of the things that I'm like flipping in there. I've never tried it. Whenever people bring it up, I'm like, I'm curious about it. Need to do my research on it. But
well,
yeah, maybe I'll add that to my list.
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't take that unless you have like some good friends around that can take you to the hospital. But no, so there's we have a friend that works in like psych wards and shit. And anyway, she was like, she was like, most of the kids that are committed, like under the age of like 17 or whatever, 18, something like that, basically are on this drug. And I was like, it's really good to know. And basically their parents can't get them to come down off of it. So it was like a 5-hour experience. So
yikes.
We played Dirty Santa like high as balls. Anyways, again, don't really recommend it. I was just like, man, this would be nice. We're out by the pool having a good time, whatever. And then that turned into something else. So moral of the story, folks, read the packaging, know what you're taking, and don't be a dumbass. There we go. All right. Speaking of recovery, you came from Wadapalooza. How is your recovery?
Oh, right now, honestly, it's just lower back tightness, and I think that's from the runner. I don't know why. I think it's just like hamstrings and lower back tightness from the runner.
Yeah.
That was a fun one. That was my favorite event.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. But recovery overall, the next 3 days are going to be spent in recovery. I'm not good with recovery days whenever it's put in, like tracked. It's a rest day. It's a rest day. It's a rest day. I talked to coach. Yeah, I talked to coach whenever I was there. And he's like, for every day that you can be, there's going to be a recovery day. I was like, I can't do that. But I'll take to heart maybe one of those. And then from there, we'll see what happens.
We've had many fights over our recovery day protocols, but it's okay. Just is what it is. Yeah. I understand them. I understand why they're there, but in your case, when you do 2 events, for 2 days, it's like, you're probably fine.
Exactly. But it's like all the events combined into one could have been like one workout, but you go in team, it's fun. Everybody
100%
contributing.
Yeah. Did you, we'll get into the workouts in a second, but did you do any fun Miami things?
Fun Miami things. What does that mean?
Go to strip clubs, go to clubs.
Absolutely not. As soon as they canceled all the events, geez, we were like headed home. Of course I don't do the strip club. What is it with you?
This is clearly not a family podcast.
No, didn't do the Fun Miami things. Literally with that like 6-hour window that they gave us, we're like, okay, do we need to be hype again and like get ready for another workout? Or do we just rest and chill and, you know, go do Miami things? Who knows? Yeah,
so just for people listening, can you fill them in on like why there, I mean, I know why there was a 6-hour wait, but why was there a 6-hour wait?
Yeah, 6-hour wait. So Wadapalooza 2022 on Sunday started at bright and early, like 8 o'clock, 9:30. And then come 10 o'clock rolls around, they told us there would be, they would have to like basically flee the event because there's going to be a tornado warning. It didn't end up being a tornado. However, it was just like heavy rain. And with that, knowing that they had like, so Dale was the workout where there's handstand walking, where doing all that wet wouldn't be, you know, that wouldn't be safe. But so there was basically a rain delay. And then they didn't let the athletes know to come back.
Great communication.
Great communication. Love it. They didn't know to tell the athletes to come back until I was like 4:30. There were several like, you know, but I mean, I understand it's a huge event. Whenever you sign up for something like that, you know, going into it, I'm giving my days to this. And what that looks like, I mean, that's, you know, I told people that I'm like, you know, signing up for an event like this, it's outdoors. You're basically committing your weekend to this. For sure. So know that and know, you know, what are the repercussions of that. So, get back at 5 o'clock. Your elite went after that. And then you had a couple other.
And they canceled most of the divisions, right?
Yeah. So they canceled. So the only people that went back were all of your elite. You had masters that went back, some masters that went back, intermediate, and then because they didn't go at the beginning of the day, and then like your RX individuals that went back. So it was very few and far between that went back. But, you know, there were a ton of spectators that continued to stick around. Yeah.
So I heard many rumors that people, specifically in the women's heat, that there were some women, one young woman in particular, that got lost in the bay when they were doing the swim event. Can you confirm or deny that accusation that I've heard from multiple people now that have texted me?
I can confirm that was an accusation. However,
here we go.
However,
breaking news, folks.
It was said that she like hopped in the water and then got out without telling any of the judges that she got out of the water. And so it was the thought that like no one saw her get out of the water. So she got in and was like didn't do the swim, and then hopped out without anybody else seeing her hop out or like telling the judges like she wasn't in the water anymore. So I
got it.
That's what happened. However, I did hear they sent out like rescue teams, swimming divers, and everything.
Like there was like Coast Guard out there, right? Like it was serious.
That's what I heard. Yeah, I wasn't there at the time. This is all story based. This is all coming from.
It's all rumors,
people,
but rumors make good podcast.
Exactly. There were a ton of hiccups, but I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. When you have that many people coming in at one time, you prepare for it. And ultimately, like, that's the name of CrossFit. It's like your ability to think on your toes and adapt to that.
It's chaos with a time cap.
Exactly. Don't we all love that? That's why we love CrossFit, because we don't know what to expect. It's like leading up to, you know, what's going to happen with CrossFit coming up with Dave Castro. Sorry, but too soon. I don't know if it's too soon or not.
No, it's never too soon when you talk for a living.
Literally. But with Dave Castro leaving, it's like, I guess for me and my thought there too is thinking like, what's the next move of Dave Castro? Not necessarily what's the next for CrossFit. I think we all know that where CrossFit's trying to go.
100%, yeah.
But what's Dave Castro going to do next? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'm glad you brought this up because up until this point, I haven't had a chance to really address this on the podcast, and I like to stay decently relevant. We've talked about weed, strip clubs, now Dave Castro, so I think it's appropriate.
Right, falling in line with the order. What's next? Let's see.
Yeah, it's the order of events. It's interesting you bring that up because I think obviously and rightfully so, there were a lot of people that were really upset about it, and I can see that. I mean, he's been around. I mean, he invented a lot of things about the sport. I mean, to some degree, the sport is kind of his baby, and I don't think anyone is or would argue that point. But if you look at it, and this is the playing devil's advocate, the part that I've heard that I think resonates with me and makes sense to me is that simply he was kind of the last at least public figure of that old guard, if you will. And that presents, or can present, I should say, some challenges when it comes to trying to move forward or maybe have a fresh view or vision or take on what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And look, like, let's be honest too. CrossFit is bringing in, big tech serial entrepreneur type of deal. And, people can say, oh, well, it's turning into big business. But the reality is, I mean, it's not this, well, it is this grassroots thing. They're trying to make it not this grassroots thing anymore. They're trying to make it a viable business that actually makes money. And, if you follow the games makes no money, and so, it's cost a lot to put on. You're basically putting a live event on for the community. Not saying that's wrong, because a lot of people rally behind it. It is a rallying cry. It's a bringing of the troops together. I think there's a lot of good that comes out of it. So I'm not saying get rid of it. I love it. I think it's great. But while I like Dave Castro, the villain, because I think that role makes sense for CrossFit, I can also be unemotional enough, that's a word, unemotional enough to step back and go, I also see why he was fired. Like, I love him, love the character Dave Castro, but I can also see this like, hey, this is the way I've done it. This is the way we've done it. And then you got these new folks coming in that whatever, from SoulCycle, from Google, from all the people they've hired, some really cool hires in these positions going, but this is what we need to do to make it and bring it to that next level. And it's like, I get that. It's like I don't want to get it. Like as a fan, I don't want to get it. But then if I put my business hat on, I go, but I get it. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's so cool the way you mention it. It's like with the idea of, first of all, the whole the money making side of it. If I look back at Wadapalooza this year and the way that I looked at it, and this is my thought, it was very much a vendor event. Like, it was there, it stood there for the vendors and, mind you, the elite athletes too, to be there, and then everything else surrounded to, okay, everyone else come and watch this, participate, give your money, and at the end of the day, that's what it was. And that's how, that's how I saw it. But I still participated, put my all out there, had fun, learned my lessons from it, and then realized what it was at the end of the day. And that's all you can do. But then thinking of Dave Castro and where valid reason why the whole CrossFit community is like, well, why did you do this? I think there's a lot of there's confusion, obviously, but people not knowing how to move forward and what to almost train for. It's just keep staying in your lane and keep working on your weaknesses, and then you'll know. That's all you have to do. But we'll see what comes from it. I think that there's going to be 2 different things that come from it. I think there's going to be something, like I said, from the Dave Castro side, and then also something from the CrossFit side. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Yeah,
I mean, you bring up an interesting point about it's about not knowing the direction. It's like, look, folks, we've been in this position before. We've been in it multiple times in the past year. Whether it was with Greg Glassman selling the company, whether it was with COVID, whether it was with the sanctionals, coming to semifinals. Like we've been in this, and the answer is, spoiler alert, keep training.
Yeah.
Keep training. Like
Absolutely.
And this is a I think a good microcosm of the bigger macro of this whole thing that we're doing, which is control what you can control. There are most of the things in life you cannot control. Most of the things that happen to you, you cannot control. You can only control your reaction to whatever it is that happens. Yet we're so caught up in trying to control all these things, and I think that's why a lot of people, including myself at times, will deal with this anxiety. Will deal with feeling like they're not doing enough. Feeling like there's if they, I love this lie. If I only do more. If I only do more, and a lot of times that's just not the answer. Right? It sounds good, it's sexy to post. It even, I think, satiates some level of imposter syndrome in us, which I think is a really interesting point, right? This idea that we're in a sport where we don't feel enough, where we don't feel like we're doing enough, where we feel like we're the outsider looking in, like someone's going to find us out. And so we feel like if we can, smother, cover, and chunk with more work, then we will feel better. We will be better. We will perform better. And the actuality in real life, how that actually plays out, is burnout, anxiety, and way too much stimulus, right? Mm-hmm. We're not built for that, that's same argument can be said with social media. Too much of something is too much of something, and you can fill in the blanks of what that too much of something is. And so, I don't know. I as you can see, I'm passionate about this just because I think that, I hear it a lot, I see it a lot. And I think when you get around hyper motivated people, and I would say CrossFit for the most part is hyper motivated people. Like, I'm not like telling, hey, Matt Fraser, you need to go in the gym today, or Tia, you need to go in the gym. Like, no, they're hyper motivated towards a goal. I think the other side of that, the nasty, the gnarly side of that, can happen pretty quickly in people that are looking, staring, observing those people that are doing it at the highest level, and all of a sudden you go, well, if they're doing it, I should be doing it. And it's like, yes, there's a certain level that I do think modeling events, modeling habits are important, but also there's an asterisk there. I think the build-up and the foundation in order to get to that point, to sustain, keyword there, those habits, is oftentimes left by the wayside, simply because that's the boring shit. That's the boring work. That's the things people don't want to do.
Yes, I was about to say, I see people see the work, but they don't see what goes behind the work. They don't do, and they don't want to put what goes in behind the work, which is the reflecting, which is the connecting with your coach, the, really the like gritty work, the like, not, like you said, the not sexy stuff, like the not work. And that's the stuff that gets you so much further than the actual work. Is the mindset training, the, obviously the recovery, the looking back at, how has my nutrition been in the past week, the buildup of weeks, months, the buildup of the past 2 months, 3 months. How has that reflected in putting in that work? Because the more work, you said more equals more. Yeah. So the more work you put in is going to equal more recovery that you're going to need, that you're probably not putting in outside of that. So it's like, it's thinking of people need to sit back and do more reflecting than they are working. So I wish, that's what I kind of starting with emails and sending out weekly emails. I told people with it is just, you can't set more goals, because I listen to your podcast as far as like the goal setting. And it's more about the reflection and like thinking, what are you even, let's look back and sit back and see, where are you putting in time and energy? where are your resources going, and are they going towards, that let's say goal that you set 2 years ago that you never even, so if we continue to fail and fail and fail, that's never going to set us up for continuing to succeed. So I think it takes more time, like sitting back and reflecting on what do you ultimately want. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how do you like stop the email from like banging.
What I do, I put my computer on Do Not Disturb when I do these podcasts, because otherwise I'm getting bombarded. I think you bring up a really good point about the reflection. The reason I say that is for this right here. How many people, I just thought about this because I do it, but I don't think about doing it. It's kind of a subconscious thing. How many people set a goal and then month 6, month 12, I'm not saying it has to be 6 or 12. It could be month 9.5. I don't care, but whatever. At some point in the future, you have a designated time where you reflect on, is this goal still important to me? Is this goal still worth achieving to me? Because it's here's how I equate this. And some people are going to cringe at this, but I think it's the truth. Once I've gotten what I believe that I needed out of a book, and I don't read books, I listen to them because I can listen to them on 2x the speed, thus I can get them done quicker. Okay, and I know there's going to be some haters out there, but I don't care. It's called I ain't got that much time, so I listen to books in the car, and that's my time for books. So it is what it is. Once I believe that I've gotten what I needed out of a book, I move on. That could be chapter 2. That could be chapter 6. That could be the whole book. Okay. And I know people are going to be like, oh my God, I cannot believe you're saying this. This is unbelievable, sacrilegious. I don't really care what you think. I don't. And I use that metaphor because I equate it to goals. It's like, when this is no longer serving me, I choose to move on. Otherwise, I will become a slave to that thing. I'll give you an example. When I started out with L, okay, signed up, Brood Coaching. You can go to www.bootstringtraining.com. Start your journey today. That was a good plug.
Plug.
When I started with Coach L, I had a goal. I said, I want to compete at Wadapalooza. Jeez, I've been on the Delta 8 this morning. Goodness gracious. I want to compete at Wadapalooza, and we had these goals and all this. And a year goes by. So 12 months go by, and we're meeting for our consults, our monthly consults, just to do what we're talking about, to reflect. Hey, why do we still want these things? Do we still want these things? What are we doing to get to these things, achieve these things? Auditing our actions, auditing the things that we're doing, our thoughts that we're having. And I was like, you know what? This goal isn't important. It doesn't motivate me in training. I don't care really. What I started out wanting is not what I want now. But how many of us, here's the question, how many of us continue the pursuit of that goal without the purpose in that pursuit? How many of us continue on the hedonistic treadmill simply because that's what we think we ought to do? Simply because that's the thing that society says, you hustle hard, you grind your ass off. Yet, with us, we don't really know why we're doing it, but we're too afraid of what other people think. We're too afraid to say this thing into the atmosphere, to the world, say, I don't want this anymore. I actually want this. Hey, spoiler alert, I've changed my mind. It's okay. No one's hating on you. I now want to do this. Yet we're told that these things like if you don't quit what you start. We're told these things from a very early age, and I understand the context of those things. It's like, hey, we've committed to these things, but in this case, the commitment hasn't changed. The habits haven't necessarily changed. What's changed is what I deem the outcome to be, what I want the outcome to be. Whether that's losing weight on a scale, whether that's like body image, like it could be a lot of things. I think it's okay to say I don't want this anymore, and that comes from auditing and reflecting. That's the only way that comes. And so bringing it back home, and how I look at my life is I look at the things that I'm doing and I say, is this serving me? Is it serving me? Is this book that I'm reading, the 15 minutes, actually serving me? And it's been tough, right? Because I have realized that with that statement comes a lot of responsibility on my end. And it comes a lot of responsibility to audit my time, audit the things that I'm giving, here we go, my attention to. Because, and you know, I've got a great podcast on this about attention and, you know, how you're leaking attention. But anyways, I'm not going to go into that. The point is, I've tried to become more stingy. That's a good word, with my attention. And I try not to give it to things, to goals, to, wait for it, people that suck.
Literally.
They're vampires. Yet, most of us are walking around and go, why am I so tired? I just can't do this anymore. Well, I can tell you why. Ready? Like, you know, and I talked about this with, Dex Hopkins a couple weeks ago. We're wondering why we feel overtrained. We're wondering why all these things. It's because we're not handling our shit outside of the gym, to your point, recovery. But anyways, my gosh, I know that was a complete trail down the Alice in Wonderland hole, but this has been on my mind, and this is a therapy session for me, and you're my therapist, and I'm needing to let it out.
You're not the only one who says that. You're not the only one who says that. I've got plenty of other people who say that. But no, it's true. Your energy, thinking of your energy and how much of it people is the biggest energy sucker you will ever have. So it's really, really noticing around, do people bring you energy, or do they take energy away from you? And so that's, I would say that's my biggest takeaway from what you just said, is for people to reassess and kind of like you have a budget of whether of time, of resources, however, and that's kind of, this is how I do my nutrition business. Is there is some sort of screening process that I do to say, are we going to work well together? Is this going to be, can we spend this time together? And am I the right fit for you? Are you the right fit for me?
Yeah.
If not, then we're just both going to be turning our wheels, and that's not what I want to be about, is to waste energy. I want to give to your life, and I want to, at the same time, I want you to, I want this to be something that brings, life to you. I'm curious from you though, as far as picking out, how do you know when to stop at the book? Because I find my chapter that I want to read first, and then the second chapter that I want to read, it may not be in order. So it's kind of like, like you're reading, so for me, like I read scripture. So I'll pick through like, okay, this, I want to work on this, then I want to work on that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so my thought and my question is, like, when do you say, stop, I'm done? And when do you, because like I said, for me, I'm picking apart like this chapter and then that chapter and then this chapter. Yeah. Just curious.
Yeah. I'll give an example of a book that I did this with that I kind of had to do this with. It was Jordan Peterson's 12 Books for Life. And which, by the way, I'm very excited. I bought tickets for my wife and I to go see him in March. It's actually right after quarterfinals end. So right after she gives us all the gift of making it to the semifinal, we're going to go see Jordan Peterson. Putting that into the atmosphere. Good vibes, people.
Yes, go Ashley! Yeah,
I'm excited for her. She had a tragic fall yesterday on a box, but it's okay. We're gonna stay strong. Anyways,
get her going.
God. So this book, 12 Books for Life, by Jordan Peterson. First of all, if you've read any of Jordan Peterson's work, it's very dense, and he'll say one line, and I'll be honest, there's times I've stopped on a line. Like, he'll say one thing, and I will immediately pause and just be like, you know what, I just need to think about this for the next 15 minutes of this car ride. But here's kind of the thing that I use. Maybe the litmus test is a better word for that. I look at it as, do I believe that I've mastered this concept? You know what I'm saying? And no, I try to be real with myself too. I don't try to, smoke and mirrors it. And what I mean by that is I don't try to make myself feel better about it. I'm like, oh, well, I do this sometimes. Deep down in your heart, like when you suck at something, and if you don't, you need better friends, because they'll tell you suck at something. Get in a relationship, they'll tell you suck at something. And that's where I really try to like just stop and pause. And it's not to say that I won't keep going through the chapter or I won't keep going through the book, but it's where I take an intentional pause. Is I go, man, like I really perceive myself to struggle with this. Like for example, this is a recent example. I was reading a book and I cannot think of the name of it. Goodness, it's a very popular book about mindset, sports psychology, and just. Basically, they're looking at like endurance athletes specifically. So it's very relevant to CrossFit. I wish I could actually, while I'm talking about it, I'll pull up my Audible.
Yes, please do.
But, and when I say it, people are going to be like, can't believe you didn't remember that book. I don't know why I always go to kind of the country guy when I'm trying to.
Literally, that's what I just thought about. I'm like, the accents that I've gotten on here have been very congruent with where you're living.
Yeah, it is. People know. People listen to this podcast. They know I live in Alabama. It's okay. This is it. Boom, right here. How Bad Do You Want It by Matt Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald. Okay.
It's a good book.
What else? What else does Matt Fitzgerald write?
I have no idea, but the summary is the greatest athletic performances spring from the mind. I agree, not the body. Elite athletes have known this for decades, and now science is learning how and why it is true. In this fascinating book, How Bad Do You Want It? Coach Matt Fitzgerald examines more than a dozen pivotal races to discover the surprising ways elite athletes strengthen their mental toughness. And he looks at running, cycling, triathlons, Xterra, rowing, all types of things. But essentially, what he's looking at is how to essentially master the psychology over this mind muscle, right? And so I was fascinated because not just as an athlete, but as someone that coaches other people, I was like, there's most CrossFit athletes don't have a problem doing the work. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not, again, right. I go back to this, like they're not, like you're not having to motivate a CrossFit athlete to go in the gym and do some burpees. Like those that are wanting to achieve at the highest level. Like they're just not. And so what I find is though, it's very relevant. It's very real, that there's something in there that holds them back, whether that's an insecurity, whether that's something even deeper in their childhood, which this stuff often stems from. Jordan talks a lot about that. But the point is, the point of the book was I wanted to understand not only how to start to master it for myself, but then how to have language specifically to help other people do it, right? Because I think oftentimes the barrier to some of our conversations with other people, that's why I think words are so important, is language. And how do we discuss these things with other people? And I'm trying to always audit that because as you can tell, I'm very abrasive, right? And so you can probably look back through our text message strands and go, man, this guy. And so though that works for me, and it works for a lot of people, there are certain people that does not work for. They're very turned off by that. And so when you're trying to coach people, I do think it's important to have language that the person is native to, so to speak, that the person will accept, that will embrace. I'm sure you do this with your nutrition clients. It's like some people you can be like, hey, stop being lazy and like, let's go. Some people it's like you tell it to, they're going to break down into tears. and then you're really a therapist.
No, literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to adapt the message to the client, to whoever you're talking to. You want to, at the end of the day, as being a coach, you want to be persuasive, and no one is going to in order to be persuasive, you have to talk to them how they want to be talked to. It's kind of like a sandwich. You butter them up, you give them the negative news, and then you leave them with the positive aspect.
God,
I hate that analogy, and it's so cliche.
Buttered them up.
But
it's grass-fed butter, right? Non-GMO.
Of course, all the CLA in it and everything.
Okay.
But it's truly about how persuasive can you be as a coach to mentally get and it's like you're shaping their mind. And how do you shape their mind to reach that goal? Some people might need, and that's a part of the questioning that you have to ask a client is, how do you like to be talked to? How are you going to define success is another one of those questions. And that really helps you tap into their mind. It's funny because I previously, beyond my nutrition clients, I work 9 to 5 corporate, do all that fun stuff.
Pays the mortgage.
It does. I worked for the Army at one point, and so how I talk to them is a lot different than now I work in eating disorders, and more like there's a lot more emotion tied to there. It's very, the way that I've had to change my communication has changed, I wouldn't say it's changed me, but it has changed me in a way. And the way that I have to view things and reframe messages. But even from client to client, it's got to be different. I have to sit back and reflect on, what emotional state are you in? It's a lot more than just providing, hey, here's the information and go get your goals. But it is when different clients require different talk, like you're saying, and tapping into their mind and helping them reach their goals. For the CrossFit athlete, like you said, they're very, that they're going to do it. That like they're already built with that like success mindset of, so it's giving them that you need to do X, Y, Z, and creating that list of like, okay, here's what we're seeing from the past couple weeks. We know that sleep is down. You're having to be more strenuous in workouts. Let's reflect on your nutrition. Looking back, oh shoot, like we're low on. I know this sounds stupid. Magnesium and potassium. All right, let's fill those gaps. Let's come back. I need you to go get X, Y, Z from the store. That's not supplements. It's real food. And fill those gaps. Let's come back. Let's see how sleep is. Let's see how you're performing, and then let's go from there. And then once we've chipped away at that, then so it's so fun though, like being and creating goals for clients. It's really truly getting to know them as a person, getting to know their mind. Not only that, but just to how they interact socially. What do they do? Like what do they do and like what's their lifestyle like? But anywho.
So I want to address this for people listening. I mean, obviously they can read the show notes and figure out who you are and all that good stuff, and that's great. But you, as you've mentioned, you've worked with clients to help them optimize their performance around nutrition. And you do a lot of other things and are a great athlete and those types of things. When you are taking on clients, because you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not just because I dated a dietitian at one point, so this is the reason for this. This is the reason for this question. This is the reason for this question. You're not a nutritionist. You're a dietitian. Is that correct?
I am not a nutritionist. Yes, I am a dietitian.
Real quick, what's the difference? I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but just for people to understand that you're not a Joe Blow like me that's just giving macros.
Absolutely. So the difference between a dietitian and nutritionist, honestly, anyone can claim that they're a nutritionist. So, You can put it in your Instagram bio. You can throw it out on a website. You can put, honestly, that like nutritionist tag anywhere, and sure, sell macros, give out supplements. And there's no, this is kind of for clients, I guess, for people that are listening to this, be aware of who is your, overseeing, let's say, your nutrition. Dietitian. A dietitian is someone who has had at least a bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics. You have to go through at least a year-long internship. And in all of the schooling and in the regulation and all of this, I'm not just learning about macros. I am learning about physiology. I am learning about biochemistry. I am learning about metabolism. I'm understanding and knowing how your body is taking everything that you're eating and turning it into not just energy, but how is it creating a different mood for you? How is it
that's good.
Changing, how truly thinking about the brain-gut connection, how is it shaping your mind? So that's, like I said, you go through 4 years of bachelor's, go through your internship, and then you sit for your exam and you become a dietitian. At that point, I went for an additional year and got my master's in nutrition. So that's just more schooling. That's just more schooling. And with that, it's not the idea of like, my master's really taught me how to research more than anything, how to dig into the literature, how to, find answers more than anything, and how to respond to that too. So higher level of education for me, it was just a matter of, it prompted me to go find the answers for myself and not rely on other people's answers, or rely on what the textbook's telling me to rely on. So I guess that's the long story short.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted people to know that, like, you're not a Joe Blow just getting on here, because we're about to get into some nutrition stuff, and I wanted to kind of set the stage, give people some context, and go, look, this isn't just me talking about nutrition, guys. Like, this is someone that really knows this stuff, and obviously I've trusted you as well. I've asked for a lot of help. So, and I know a lot of elite athletes that we'll get into have asked for a lot of help, and you are still helping them and guiding them. So, I find what's interesting around anything, and I don't care if this is nutrition, if this is relationships, if this, it doesn't matter to me what it is. It starts with a belief system. And we all come in with a certain level of belief, or the lack thereof disbelief. And you might say, Micah, why are you bringing this up? And the answer to that is really simple. We all have, when it comes to something like food, it's a very intrinsically, biologically driven thing, right? Like we all come in with this perception of what food is and what we need. And our belief system around food can be very, very different. And so, you mentioned two different types of people. When we started talking about this, you said, I work with folks that have eating disorders, and that's one different type of belief system. And then I work with folks, and I'm just putting people in buckets for the ease of conversation. I know that things are 50 shades of gray. They're not as black and white as I'm making them, but
yeah,
right. But just for the sake of, so we can have some level of conversation so that it's not too ethereal. And then you talked about the folks that you work with that are very, as I think you said it, motivated, and more of your CrossFit athletes. What belief systems, if any, do you have to unwind? Because I find that before you can lay new belief systems, you sometimes have to unwind old belief systems. Does that ring true to you? Do you see that?
Absolutely. I think if you don't realize it, because they may not right off the bat, you may not be able to understand their belief system right off the bat. You're realizing it and recognizing as you're working with them and changing their thoughts from one thought pattern to another. So instead of, like you said, instead of unwinding one belief system and creating a whole new one, it's you're traveling through so many, I would say, just like levels, because it is built up from childhood. Your beliefs are built up from childhood. And then so it's reshaping that and sometimes it's easier for those that are motivated, obviously, because they are they're more honest with you. The more motivated the person is, the more transparent and honest they
That's
are.
Interesting.
And so it's easy to help them. When someone is honest with you, it's so easy to help them, and you can give them it's just the truth. But
I can see
anyways, for each of those, I'm just like you're asking between, let's say, like you have the eating disorder bucket, and then you have those that are more motivated. For those with the eating disorder, they're like lying to themselves, or the eating disorder is lying to them essentially. And so it's harder to unpack all of those beliefs. I mean, there's those initial beliefs that are going to come, that is coming with an eating disorder. With the motivated person, that's where it actually might be a little bit tougher to figure out what are those underlying, beliefs that they've built up. Because it's like expected. It's like, I know what's in this bucket, and I know that there's going to be work and like dirty work and having to feel through those beliefs, versus with the person that is motivated. It's really, I think part of it is helping them figure out what are their beliefs around nutrition or their goals in general, and helping them pick through, okay, well, how do we make that next 1%? How do we make that next, how do we change either a behavior or a goal, so that you can, but no, I mean, I love the way that you put that, though. It's like everyone has their initial beliefs, and it's just reshaping those, reforming those.
I think your Hot Pocket's ready. I heard it beep.
No, I don't know. Oh, I haven't had one of those in years, but no, I don't know. There's a lot of road noise out here. Fun fact, I came home to an 88-degree department last night, and I put in a maintenance order and everything, like emergency, to get here, and they didn't. So literally all of my windows are open. So I've got the nice, at least it's like 60 something degrees right now, and it could be worse. As far as outside, so I've got all the windows open, getting some good airflow in here.
It's all good. But I'm just giving you a hard time.
It was just my Hot Pocket.
It was a great segue. So speaking of Hot Pockets, how do you, because I ask people a lot of questions, and I carry a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. Some people they're easier to carry conversations with, like yourself. There are certain people I've had on this show that it's just tougher. Like, it just, for whatever reason, it's just tougher. And you have to learn how to dig. You have to learn how to listen. Keyword, listen. When you are sitting down with someone for the first time, how do you go about, because I think before you can break beliefs, you have to understand beliefs. You have to just simply meet them where they are. Would you agree with that? Just
Absolutely.
So how 100%. Do you go
100%.
about like doing that process? Because that's the part I'm really fascinated with, and we'll get into some like specific, like, eat this and do this and take this drug and this is how you get strong and stuff. So all you folks can stick around for that. But
I think we started with that, Micah.
Yeah. Anyways, PEDs. All right, people are back in. So, anyways, how do you go about that?
Oh, understanding.
Yeah, like what are some questions maybe that you ask?
First of all, it comes with not judging. It comes with the idea of, and that requires the practitioner and the coach to not judge themselves. I've found. So the more I am not judging myself, the more I can be non-judgmental of other people and my clients, essentially. So I come in with this idea that I don't know your story. I want to know your story. I want to understand your story, and I want you to be more successful than you think you can be successful. So a part of that comes from me having to understand, and I'm really thinking right now, I'm thinking of more of like those eating disorder clients, because they come with a very like typically traumatic background. And so for me, I have to think of, I haven't walked in your shoes. And so the best way for me to do that, is I have to come alongside you and as much as possible understand, why you got to where you are today. And let's pick through, and we have to go back and navigate that together and reform these beliefs and these habits, because of, what your childhood brought you, or what, the past year, or the past 2 years have brought you, and resurface all of those negative and bad thoughts. And I think I just come in knowing that that's going to happen. And I have to walk in that. And like, honestly, training, and it sounds crazy, but like training and CrossFit has allowed me to walk through tough shit.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And that's why, I seek that outside of the gym. Is like, I seek tough things and hard things because I know that the only way to get through it is to literally go through it. You can't go around it. And so I really want to bring other people into that same mindset outside of the gym, especially in that eating disorder world, because they can't always go into the gym. And so I love to bring that like attitude and that mentality of like, let's walk through this together. Let's put all of our thinking caps on. Let's grab all of the resources that we can to navigate what we have to walk through. And so like you said, it's how do you understand the other person is one, knowing that it's gonna get tough, it's gonna get rough. You just gotta brace for it. Two, not being judgmental of that person, not being judgmental of yourself. You can reflect on maybe how y'all are walking through that together, but don't be judgmental. Make changes as you have to make changes. And then three, literally resources. Use your resources. It's with like recreating those, thinking of recreating those behaviors and those, I guess that mindset is use your resources. And it's individualized at the end of the day. You have to recognize that it's going to take work, and everyone's going to require a different road to get to success. Yeah.
I wrote something down here on my piece of paper. You said the brain-gut connection. What does that mean? The brain-gut connection.
The brain-gut connection. Oh yeah. There's like a whole science behind that. Well, but basically,
give me like the NEDS nerd version, like the NEDS or the Science for Dummies, brain gut Science for Dummies version, like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's several hormones that are released whenever it's like there's so many layers to it. I wish I could like unpack it all. But thinking,
I got time. Go ahead. Knock it out.
I know. But thinking of like hormones released whenever you are like have an appetite for something. So there's something where there's like you've got these nerves in your stomach that basically like there's like a second brain in your stomach that have got like serotonin receptors, and like serotonin is being released whenever you eat, let's say something like that you enjoy. You get like a little happy high from it. Like you just like you get a little like happiness.
Like so fat kid eating cake. That type of thing.
Literally. And so then I'm thinking like there's a serotonin release from whenever you eat that that your brain turns on then, and like that's why then you crave it's like almost like that dopamine hit of like you want it to keep going, and so it's like that serotonin release whenever you eat something that's pleasurable, and then also too whenever maybe let's say you eat something that is not so, let's say, good, it's been sitting out for a couple days, you didn't realize it, there's that release, more of that release that's going to make it come out in a sense. So there's that side of the brain gut connection. Then you've got several, there's just so many pieces that I wish maybe we can unpack in another episode, but it's it's
We're
really,
gonna call it the brain gut episode.
the brain gut episode. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I mean, some people have referred to it even as, that your gut is your first brain, which is really interesting, right? Anyways, I'm very interested in it. I'm very interested in why certain foods make me feel certain ways, and I'm assuming this is all connected to that connection. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, I mean, it's too, though. There's, I mean, whenever you say certain foods make you feel a certain way, so thinking of, people have this idea of like, oh, let me take out dairy from my diet. Let me take out certain things from my diet. But then that comes from, okay, well, no longer is your body going to be producing certain enzymes to digest
Those things.
Exactly. But then you could also go to the idea of, what is my microbiome looking like? And they have things called,
what is a microbiome?
What is a microbiome? Microbiome is basically the good, it's like you mix of like your good and bad bacteria in your stomach.
And this is part of the second brain or the gut brain.
Of the gut, yeah. Of your gut, essentially, knowing of like you've got the microbiome, which is basically like biome being where all the bacteria are in your gut. And you've got good and bad bacteria. There's plenty of research that supports whenever you're eating more of like whole foods based diet, but like whenever you're eating foods that aren't coming with all the preservatives, the process.
Yeah, real foods,
you're maintaining a healthy gut. And at the end of the day, that's going to be food that's just allowing your body to digest food easier. And it's not having to work through all of those chemicals. So it's, like I said, there's so many connections. There's so many ways that you could view this brain gut connection.
So is that why people take probiotics? I see those at the store.
Yeah.
Is that the idea behind that? Like trying to get more healthy bacteria?
Exactly. That's typically what people are trying to do. However, there's different strains and strands of probiotics, and like why you want. So there's reasons why you would take a different probiotic for a different symptom. People would, let's say they have something called like, I hate to get like nasty, but like,
no, let's go.
Let's say like,
I like
an athlete who is traveling out of country, and might like be subject to a different type of water than they're used to, or different types of foods they're not used to, and so like, or there's bacteria in the food or whatever. It's like that. It's going to cause something called like traveler's diarrhea, which then like can mess up your, the good gut bacteria compared to the bad gut bacteria. So then you take the probiotics to repopulate the good bacteria.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's kind of a science essentially with like, okay, what's actually going on. People who take antibiotics. So thinking of antibiotics, which are like killing the gut all of the basically good and bad bacteria. So then after taking an antibiotic, you would take a certain probiotic strain to repopulate the good bacteria in your gut. So and then whenever you're sick and wanting to, there's so many reasons why people might take probiotics, but it's like, do you take a probiotic or do you just eat fermented foods? So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, do I pop a pill or do I just eat the whole food and get it through food?
Fermented foods. What are fermented foods?
Fermented foods. Basically, they put the good bacteria into the food. So thinking like yogurt.
Oh yeah, I gotcha. Kefir. Yeah, that stuff is.
Yeah, you're
stuff
like
is thick.
Sauerkraut. So you'll see foods that are like, they actually have like fermented pickles or different fermented foods that have even kombucha have probiotics in it. it's kind of hard though whenever they make, let's say with like yogurt or like the kombucha, they make such large batches of these things, and it's like, well, am I actually getting the amount that
I need? Yeah,
exactly, that's in this bottle. And I'm usually not one to say, oh, just go take a probiotic. There's definitely some, I'm asking about your like GI symptoms. What's good? Like, have you been on any antibiotics recently? Do you have IBS? Or so there's a lot of it's more like on the medical side, where I would do more like prescribing of a probiotic.
Got it. Yeah, I just like I know that sometimes when I take kefir.
Oh, you drink kefir?
Well, here's why. I have very IBS. Yeah, I feel that. My stomach does not do well with any dairy. It's very bad, very bad. Lactose in particular. So, man. But what's interesting is that certain cheeses, right, that have like less lactose in them, for example, goat cheese, totally fine. But you give me like some, I don't know, mozzarella. Whew. Anyways, so.
No, it's true though. It's like
a way to ruin a night.
It's truly the amount of lactose that's in it. There's yogurt. I'd be curious, have you tried yogurt in a while?
Oof, it's a nightmare situation.
No bueno.
Greek yogurt is a one-way train, let me tell you. Anyways, so I've experimented with a lot of different things because of that, and I've tried to figure out, like, and I mean, yeah, like I know they make those food sensitivity tests, but see, this is what my wife told me. She's like, if you take one of those tests and then they come back and it's like you can't eat these 86 things, she's like, you can hire someone to cook for you, is basically what she said. And I mean, like, I can't really argue with that too much. She does all my cooking, and it's very, very nice, and she's very, very helpful and sweet, and she cooks great, and it's healthy, and all those things, and not a lot of ingredients, very simple, whole foods, all those things that you want. So I'm like, yeah, that's a good point, and then I'm gonna be, what if it's like, you're friggin' allergic to coffee? I'm gonna flip those people off and say F you.
Exactly. Yeah, those tests you really can't rely on. The food sensitivity test.
You can't rely on them. This is interesting.
No,
Why?
Insurance won't cover those. And what they do is they will seek out what they're going to show you is that those foods that you eat more often, you're sensitive to, because they create those enzymes in your stomach to digest those foods. So So at the end of the day, and that's why they're not. So what's coming up for you is that, oh, I'm sensitive to eggs, I'm sensitive to almonds, I'm sensitive to chicken, I'm sensitive to all of those things that you typically eat because your body is creating those enzymes to digest those foods. And
that's fascinating.
In a greater capacity, because it knows like what to expect, essentially. Like your body's knowing like what to expect. So I'm going to produce those enzymes. Versus, you don't have, let's say, dairy for a while. Your body is going to stop creating those enzymes to digest.
So that's why it's a train wreck when I do eat dairy.
Yikes.
Yeah. Okay, that answers that question.
It usually has to be, whenever it comes to that, like a slower reintroduction to dairy, if you've like taken dairy out.
So you're saying don't eat a whole pint of Jenny's ice cream. That's what you're saying not to do.
I mean, you do you. If you want to be on the toilet away from your wife for that long.
Let me tell you, I do love some Jenny's. This podcast could be sponsored by Jenny's. Let me tell you, folks, the Brambleberry Crisp ice cream. Go change your life. All right. I am a self-proclaimed ice cream connoisseur. I have 3 different metrics in which I use in order to rank ice creams. I've thought about having an ice cream show. One lick. Everyone knows the rules.
One lick.
And quite frankly, guys, the 3 things that I use are going to, first and foremost, be consistency. I know what I'm looking for is how creamy is it? Is it that hard shit that I've got to like crunch up in my mouth, or does it just melt through my tongue and mouth area? It's, that sounds weird, but it's true. Secondly, the thing that I use is chunks, right? We're all about C's here, folks. Chunks. I love chunks. The chunkier, the better. If it does not have chunks of whatever item is in there, say it's cookie dough, if it's not cookie dough, or Brambleberry crisp, it's not got some crisp C's, I'm very upset, okay? And it immediately gets a very, very, very low score because it doesn't have chunks. So consistency, what I'm looking for, is it creamy, is it not? Chunks is going to be that second thing. Excuse me. And yeah, see, there's a whole science to this. There's a whole.
I'm listening. This is new. This is new.
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. Let me tell you, I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, if I was single, I'd bring this out in front of a girl. She'd be like, damn. I always tell her that. I said, man, you lucky. You won the jackpot. We'd be going to an ice cream parlor, and she'd be like, what is this? Man, this guy knows his ice cream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
God, he can CrossFit and knows
All
his
right,
ice cream.
so we got the creaminess, the crunchiness.
No, it's chunks, damn it. It's not
Chunks.
crunchiness. I don't want it crunchy. It's,
Okay, chunks.
So creaminess, chunks, and then unfortunately the third thing is not a C. I'd have to really start to
let me down.
Start thinking about it. But so you know how some ice cream it's basically sweetness. So some ice cream and is like they use other things than real like cane sugar. And to me, that really throws the flavor. Like, it really alters the flavor, in my opinion. Like, Halo Top is trash, okay? Anyone that eats Halo Top, you literally lick butthole, because that's what it is. It's disgusting, okay? It's freaking disgusting, all right? And there's a lot of other brands. Yeah,
it's the corn fiber in it. It's like mealy.
Okay. See, dietitian talk. I don't even know what that means. So the point is sweetness, like 1 to 10. So what I find is like the really good ice cream, okay, the stuff that's expensive, like $6.99 a pint, expensive. That's expensive to me for a pint of ice cream. That's what Jenny's is. It has real cane sugar, cane sugar, the real stuff from the cane, hence the name, cane sugar. That's the stuff that I like. All right, because it's real to me. Like, if I were to actually make ice cream, I would go and put cane sugar in it, not some BS substitute. So I love this ice cream so much, and I'll wrap it up, I promise. I love this ice cream so much that I looked into how to make it, okay? Because, Ashley was like, this stuff is expensive, and it is. I agree with her. It is expensive for what it is. I looked it up. It's like a 2-day job. It's a 2-day job. You have to bake the crisps, okay, the Brambleberry strudel, basically, and then you have to, and then like put it in a baking pan and do the whole thing, and then you got to make your ice cream separately and then put them together, swirl it, and then let it sit. I was like, nah, I'll pay $6.99. So, anyways, that's what I use, the scale that I use to rate ice cream. And it's worked for me so far. Never failed me yet. I found the best ice cream on planet Earth, Brambleberry Crisp. I crowned that in 2021 as Consumer Reports Best Ice Cream by Micah.
Is it made with real milk, or is it
100%? No, it's real.
Because you recommended, was it like Nadamu?
Yeah, so that's good for folks that don't want to have the bathroom squirts, that are dairy intolerant. It's great, but I recently found that what's that brand? Ben & Jerry's does a dairy-free as well. Yeah. And prior to finding Brambleberry Crisp, Tonight Dough was my favorite, and I would just suck it up and eat that straight up, and deal with the consequences later. But
not made with cane sugar.
But it's not. Yeah, it's made with some other stuff. So Brambleberry Crisp, unreal. Actually, Elle's wife put me onto that. I got to give credit where credit's due. Of course, Victoria.
She did. Yeah. Of course, she did.
I was at their house, and I put one of my like pre-made meals in the freezer, and I was like, oh, what is this? I haven't seen this because, you know, I'm an ice cream connoisseur. Like, I know all ice creams, you know, and we're like having a conversation about it. She's like, oh my God, changed your life. So good. I tried them all. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. Spoiler alert, there's a Ginny's parlor, ice cream parlor in downtown Birmingham. So, you know, hello, I went.
What?
And you can do a sampler, a freaking sampler. So, you know, you get like 4 or 8. Anyways, point being is you can get a lot, and you can sample things. And so that's what I did. I went there, sampled it all, and found out which the best one is. And look, folks, if you go and see Jenny's, let me help you out because it is expensive. You know, I'll save you a couple bucks here. There's going to be some amazing names. Like, they have figured out the name branding thing. Okay, folks, like cinnamon swirl, like cinnamon, or no, sticky bun. Like, come on, it makes you think of it, just like your grandma or maybe even Auntie Anne's, like in the mall. Like, it makes you think of that. Okay, they're brilliant. It's trash. It's not good. It leaves you wanting more, kind of like the crumble cookie that I had last week that was sticky bun, and it got me again. It's marketing, folks. But Brambleberry Crisp, I can honestly say, because I've had them all, spent a lot of money on Jenny's, and that is, in fact, my favorite one, Brambleberry.
So what
Crisp.
is the bramble? What is the bramble? Is it like, where does that come from? Do we know?
Well, yeah, I can share my screen here, and I can show you. Show you these things. Okay.
Let's shoot.
All right. Do you see that?
Negative Ghost Rider. Waiting. 3 dots. Loading. Ring. Ring.
All right.
Oh, here we are.
Yep, you see it?
It's in your Instacart already. Is that what that is?
No, it's just it's showing it to you. All right, here we go. From the Brambles. This is the official shopjennies.com.
$12.
$12, folks, but you can get it at Publix for $6.99. Ready? I'm gonna. So for folks just listening, for the video version, which you can go on YouTube, Brute Stream Podcast, or excuse me, the Brute Stream channel, and find. From the Brambles, it says oven toasted. Listen, folks, listen to this. I'm gonna read it in my Patrick Stewart voice. Oven toasted oat streusel and a sweet tart brambleberry jam of blackberries, black currants layered throughout vanilla ice cream. Brambleberry Crisp inspired by brambleberry bushes that litter the hillsides of the Appalachian foothills. The kinds of purple berries Jenny used to pick as a child.
Jenny.
Anyways, I'm not going to keep going on. But the point is, tell me this doesn't just... Anyways.
I mean, it's so good. I'm definitely going to go pick up a pint. I mean, I got rest days coming up. So I'm thinking that means some things, right?
Yeah.
That means
100%.
you watch... What about... I have ideas for what these rest days are going to look like, because I'm no longer going to be spending my evenings in the gym.
There you go. Back on a few nutrition things before I let you go. I do want to say this. You know, the great debate on, you know, for a lot of CrossFitters is, you know, how, and I want to get zoned into like, look, most people listen to this podcast are trying to increase their performance. So we're talking, you know, performance-based type folks. Like, how, when you're looking at a breakdown of percentages, how do you look at the carbs based on, or carbs relative to the fats, relative to the proteins, in terms of a percentage breakdown, assuming someone's training, you know, 3 or 4 hours a day? You know, like how, like, because people often say, you know, you need to eat more carbs, you need to eat more carbs. Like how much more do you need to eat is the question. And don't give me it depends. I want like actual percentages. I want numbers here.
Oh, geez.
Like, is it 40%?
Calling me princess.
45%?
So it truly is. I mean, it's going to be in that 40 ballpark. As far as where that percentage goes up or down, or how close that is to 40%, we're going to look at things like how intensely are you training, and then that's you know, how intense are you training, and how high are we staying at that, or how long are we staying at that intensity? is
Gotcha.
a level. So obviously, as training season changes, so for literally, I might have athletes that go from like through like 350 something carbs to like 530, depending on what part of the season that they're in, and that volume of training, that intensity of training. So truly, at the end of the day, and then too, of like, what are those body composition goals? Sorry, not sorry, but like, we all know, the great debate with carbohydrates. So that's part of the story too, is where also, this is part of my, what I have to sit back with an athlete and work with them on numbers sometimes, is seeing is like, are you recovering? And is that a matter of because you don't have enough carbs, or is it because you don't have enough fats? So fats do a great,
that's interesting.
Fats, and because at the end of the day, you may have enough carbs, there might just be a lack of calories. And so that the rest of those calories, I'm not going to fill just with carbohydrates, but I'm thinking of, well, no, fats aid in recovery. And thinking, well, not just any type of fat, but our healthy fats, and those omega, and I say healthy, quote unquote, but like your omega-3.
Yeah, not the French fries. You're talking the cashews and the avocados and stuff.
Exactly. And whenever I'm recommending too, though, is like the fat soluble vitamins. What foods have the fat soluble vitamins? Obviously, your fish, your eggs. Yes, your avocados, and nuts, seeds, things like that. So it truly just depends. Is like, is it truly a carbohydrate thing, or is it a total lack of calories? And do those calories need to come from more carbohydrates or more fats in general?
You bring up a great point about body composition, though. I think that's one thing that I've personally had to let go of, right? Is like, is just like not feeling like I have to be ripped 24/7. And I'm eating more food than I've ever eaten in my life. I weigh more than I've ever weighed in my life. And I just
getting strong.
I've let go of it now, because I realize, yes, I want to look great naked type of deal, but at the end of the day, like, I want to get stronger. And unfortunately, if you want to get stronger, weight moves weight. And that's just, there's no way around that. It's physics. And certainly I'm not saying there's not people that are 130 and, pound for pound, just super strong. Like, obviously those people exist, but you're right though. I mean, it's like, you're balancing that, and that being body composition versus your goals. Sometimes those things are, well, they're adversary in a way, right? They're, like getting really strong and being in the off season versus I want to have a six pack. Yeah. I don't know if oftentimes those things don't go hand in hand.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So it's truly understand, like we talked about, and like reflecting on your goals. Does everything align? Are you in line? And is your mind in line with everything that's what it's going to take to achieve those goals? So thinking
that's
of
good.
Getting stronger, I'm going to expect that you're going to expect to put on, some weight. And are you comfortable with that and what that's going to look like and how that's going to change? But also identifying, though, of like, well, maybe let's not look at the number on the scale, and let's look at what are those strength numbers looking like? How is performance feeling? And that's where that's what the conversation is going to be about. And let me tell you this, like, it's not often that I ask my athletes to send me a picture of like, oh, I want a check-in picture. No, like, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking, how are you feeling in the gym? How are you recovering? How's your sleep? It's, that's, if there's a one-off occasion where it's like, okay, well, what's actually going on? Then that's whenever I might, need that as an additional metric, I guess you'd say. Or check-in. So, your body composition is going to change in CrossFit based off of your goals, and that's something that you have to reflect on and know going into that goal what's going to happen. As far as strength goes, I know for me, my next skill set is my next work is skill set and like kind of like bodybuilding type work. So I know what how my diet is going to have to reflect there, and what what's to come from that, and knowing that yes, I might be, I don't want to say this, but like yes, there might be times where I'm be low on energy, but that's just knowing what I'm moving towards, and okay, but it's only temporary, and that's what those are things that you have to tell yourself whenever it comes to let's say getting stronger or working on skill sets versus being in that competitive mode. Whenever you're competitive mode or it's competition mode, you really aren't even thinking about, I wouldn't say like macros, but at the end of the day, like I tell my athletes, I'm like, literally you need to fuel your body. Like you need to
just
eat. Exactly. Don't eat like a, asshole, but you need to eat.
Oh, when it's competition season, I'm going through a pint of ice cream a night.
Didn't is getting sold out.
I mean, it just is what it is, because at some point, like you can't eat enough, and this is for another podcast, but you can't eat enough rice and vegetables and chicken. I mean, I eat pretty clean, but like at some point, there's not enough of that to go around.
Exactly.
It's too voluminous. Exactly. Word of the day. As we're wrapping up here, and this may be a tough question, but I think it's an interesting one. What is one thing, if you could distill it down, specifically for competitive CrossFit athletes, what's one thing that you see that if someone changed, or if someone did, that they would see maybe a drastic difference from your perspective of working? I mean, you worked with the Ohio Brutes that made it to the CrossFit Games this year, and several other high-level athletes. What do you see as being like maybe a common thread or something that people could really benefit from?
Cooking from home. I know that sounds wild, but it's more than you know. People are, and like as much as possible, trying your best to eat whole foods, and that all of that is going to go into performance. And what comes with that is like you are doing more than just eating like macros in a sense, but like you're getting your micronutrients, you're getting all of the nutrition that your body needs, instead of fleshing out and worrying about what are these extras in the food that my body is trying to cope with right now, and trying to handle to flush out essentially, instead of wanting to use. So the biggest thing, like I say, is it's going to be eating whole foods as much as possible, and cooking from home, 100%. If that requires you like packaging up a meal, like you're cooking and then packing up that meal to go, and creating the environment, you have to grab a lunch bag or whatever, that's fine. Do that. Set yourself up for success, and do that is 100% what I would say is the biggest thing that you could change.
Yeah, I think for me, like, and this is more of a supplementation thing, but I think for me, the biggest three things that I've added on a consistent basis are magnesium, vitamin D, and there's different types of magnesium, folks, so you should do your research. Not all are created equal, but magnesium, vitamin D, and creatine. Those are the three things that have been huge for me, and I've seen a really big difference. I mean, vitamin
when did
D.
You start those?
Elle sent me this thing that was like top. You've probably sent it to you, or you've probably seen it. It's like the 9 top supplements for CrossFit athletes. And so I read them, and then I listened to a couple other podcasts, did some research, like what Andrew Huberman has to say about some of this stuff too. Very fascinated with him, really like him. He's got some good stuff. Would love to have him on the show and talk like unfiltered, like how to biohack performance. Anyways, yeah. So to answer your question, I started about 6 months ago. I've been very consistent.
Wow. Okay.
But I've taken creatine for the last 3 years consistently, like very consistently, like 95% adherence, like very, very consistently.
HCl or monohydrate?
I think I have monohydrate. Pretty sure. Do you recommend something? And
do I recommend something?
Yeah.
Monohydrate, creatine monohydrate. Is my.
Okay, so that's
I mean,
what
they're
it is.
both. Yeah, they're both gonna be. They're both gonna do the job. monohydrate is the one that's more researched. Like, it has the most research backing it up.
Well, that's the thing. This shit's been around forever, and there's so much research on that thing. I mean, like, literally, there's so much research. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's beyond just performance. I mean, there's even like for like being effective, just doing work wise, for the brain essentially.
Big fan. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to tap into supplements, I could also tap into supplements. But yeah, magnesium is 100 for recovery. If you're trying to, people always go to melatonin for sleep. I think
melatonin is shit for sleep, but that's another podcast.
Exactly.
I don't have time to break that down.
Right. But magnesium, absolutely. Adding so glycinate in any form, if you could do that, is one going to help with kind of recovering those muscles in the evening time. Vitamin D.
Because there's glycinate, there's citrate, right? And there's one more.
I mean, there's magnesium oxide. You've got mag.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a bunch, but you recommend.
There's like.
Yeah, that's the other one. The M one. Yeah, malatate. Yeah,
malatate or malate or.
So you recommend glycinate for CrossFit athletes?
Yeah. Typically, I like Thorne there's a supplement brand out there. They've got a magnesium bisglycinate. And
you recommend
mix it up before. Yeah, mix it up before bedtime. Really helps with recovery and just getting appropriate sleep. 30 minutes before bed. It's
good to go.
Yep, good to go. And then vitamin D is one of those. Typically, you're
deficient. Let's just say.
Yeah, most not just athletes, but Americans in general are going to be deficient in vitamin D. I do like to get, before doing recommendations for supplementation, I like to get some level of some panel of what are we working with? How much do we need to supplement? Do you need to be on a higher dosage that a doctor has to prescribe it? And because you do have things of toxicity.
Yeah, 100%. You're exactly right.
Something to be aware of. But
so
I think
if people
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
I think this is one that is good, that needs more research. Is ashwagandha, and that could be beneficial. However, it's like, how does your liver tolerate it? Is one of the concerns. But ashwagandha is one of those things that I am continuing to
You're
do
getting into
research
some
on.
Andrew Huberman stuff. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
So if people want to find you, work with you, hire you as their therapist, where do they do that?
So they can go to my business is Adaptive RX Nutrition. That is going to be my nutrition coaching business. That's going to be on Instagram or adaptiverxnutrition.com. You can find me there, contact me, and reach out there. Or if you just want to see what I do some personal and business on my personal one, which is Valerie Wright. That would be my Instagram. So you can put that in the show notes. Let them find me. Connect with me either way. I'm super personable. Always love to see you reach your goals. If I'm not the solution, I'll help you find the solution. Like I said.
Good human.
But
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
You're welcome. It's the nicest thing I've said today. I probably will say so. That's my one nice thing. I do one nice thing a day, folks.
One nice thing a day.
That's right. All right, Val. Be good. We'll see you later.
All right. Take care.